1986, the Zambezi River, Africa. 1990, the Biobio, South America. Three South African kayakers that share a dream: to challenge the world's classic rivers and beat the raging white waters. They have also successfully taken on the Orange in South Africa and the Colorado in North America. The ultimate challenge: to navigate one of Africa's most unforgiving rivers, the mighty Cunene. Their goal is shared by 6 Americans, who between them have covered thousands of miles rafting many of the great rivers worldwide. Joined by 8 more Southern Africans, this international group set off on June the 11th for the Kunene River Exploratory Expedition to conquer a river which has not been in any way kind to previous expeditions. The 230-kilometer section from Ruacana Falls to the Kunene mouth, through the Zebra Mountains, Epupa Falls, Baines Mountains, Marienfluss and Hartmann's Valley would be explored. Very little is known about the difficulties of this river, the magnitude of which was yet to be discovered. The first major obstacle en route to Epupa was the Onderusa Falls. The entire river funneled through a narrow gap over a 3-meter drop. After scouting the rapid, it was decided to ghost run the rafts through.
We'll have people stationed to move the rope, and the boats will be pulled in down there. We have to make sure we keep our people and equipment intact. I've already designated who's going to do what, and everyone else just has to stay out of the way of the rope and we'll be all right.
Back on the water, and strong flowing streams were put to good use to speed up progress. And on the slow, flat water, one could experience encounters with the indigenous people, the primitive Ovahimba tribe. Their transport, crude but effective, gets them across the river from Namibia to Angola. All members of the expedition contributed towards rowing the long, flat stretches of water. There was also time for a bit of upstream surfing. On day 4, the expedition reached Epupa Falls. This would be a definite portage.
It's taken us 3 days of reasonably calm kayaking to get here. Some class 4 water a little further up the gorge. Now we've reached Epupa Falls, and it's totally unrunnable. It's the most magnificent sight I think I've ever seen it. It's more rugged than Victoria Falls. So what we're doing is we're having to carry all our kit about 2 kilometers over the edge of this mountain down to a beach below all the rapids and cataracts. And then we're going to carry the rafts and we're going to rope them into the gorge at a spot, and we're going to try and ghost ride them through most of the bad rapids, and then we'll pick them up down below where all our kit is piled up.
With Epupa behind them, the expedition entered day 5, a day filled with action and drama. No fewer than 6 major rapids had to be negotiated, the first of which was dubbed Kunene Keyhole, and it was exactly that. While the rafts squeezed through the narrowest of gaps, the kayaks took the safety of the chicken run. Zambian river guide Sai Sakala suffered a traumatic fingertip amputation when an oar jammed in a rock, catching his finger in the rowlock. Expert medical attention was on hand, and Sai was credited with naming Fingertip Rapid after the accident. For the kayaks, running mainline was out of the question.
The problem with this rapid is there's so much water going through a very deep and small space And if your entry's not perfect, you hit this rock, you ricochet off the next one, and you go straight over the top of that rock in the middle.
This particular rapid is one that I don't fancy.
Whoever's going in there is going to get mangled big time.
But with experience and skill, and perhaps a measure of good luck, the rafts and occupants made it through unscathed. The kayaks had their turn again at 1:5. Chris Krief used a diving regulator as a precaution against staying upside down for too long. They were not prepared to take chances with the Kunene. Todd's Rapid became their next big headache. James Carroll and Henry Black prematurely celebrated their run and missed the mainstream. The raft was drawn into the boiling eddy, and there they stayed for the next half hour. It was the turn of John Yost next. After losing his grip on the oars, he and his crew suffered the same fate. With the aid of throw ropes, the kayakers were able to assist the raft crew back into the mainstream again. Oarsman Stephen Nalisa managed to remain in the mainstream and saved his crew a lengthy rinsing in the wash machine. If Todd's had been a headache, Powerhouse was to be a nightmare. Yost ran the rapid alone, and the rest speaks for itself. The power of the Cunene proceeded to mangle the wrapped raft. The replay shows the sidewash wave taking control of the raft. It slams into the rock and instantly wraps. Yost was submerged for only 4 seconds, but it seems like an eternity when you're in there. Yost was lucky to come out in one piece, with Lee quick to come to his aid, while Krief began picking up the pieces. The raft eventually washed free to reveal the total destruction of the expedition's medical kit. The much-needed rest after the dramatic events of Day 5 was a welcome break. The following morning, the remaining rafts were ghost run through Powerhouse Rapid, while equipment was carried around. Chris and John in the kayaks formed a salvage team to bring the rafts to the side. So far, this had been the most difficult section of the journey. It had taken 1.5 days to cover a mere 20 kilometers of the fast-flowing river. Ahead lay more destructive action. With the injury to Sai Sakala's hand, Cape Townian Rob Newman had to take over the oars. As a newcomer to the task, he settled in fast and cruised through the white water with apparent ease. Fellow Cape Townian Roelof van Riet, an experienced kayak paddler, took the opportunity on calmer waters to get some experience on the oarboat. At this stage, the Cunene begins to pass through jagged rocky landscape, splitting up frequently the fast flow over the rocks creating bumpy swirls and eddies, making the handling of the rafts and kayaks tricky. The river was taking its toll on the expedition. This raft became a victim of one of the jagged rocks.
Well, we approached the rapid and unfortunately we were full of water. I couldn't pull into the eddy, so we just got the boat lined up best we could and went straight into the hole.
And the first rock that we hit, the first rapid that we hit, the tube exploded on the left-hand side. It was just a huge gash, it just exploded.
We went down the next 4 rapids. We're holding bits and pieces together.
Everything happened so fast, you know, you really look after yourself in the boat and your buddies.
Unfortunately, the frame was broken, so we're going to make it into a paddle boat from now onwards and paddle the rest of the way down.
But the raft wasn't the only casualty.
We've gone through a terrible rapid. Boat's broken. My particular concern was one of our boatmen from Zambia who has 2 fractured fingers and a torn ear where they went over a rock. I've managed to stabilize the fingers, and it's going to be really a matter of keeping him out of action for a while. I don't think there's anything that's life-threatening, but it's going to be very inconvenient for the whole crew.
The potholes, a short portage of only 100 meters, but it took 3 hours to complete. With the 2 Zambian oarsmen effectively out of action, expedition leader John Yost had his hands full working out the logistics from here on. Yost from Angels Camp, California, is a pioneer of exploratory expeditions and for more than 20 years has journeyed major rivers throughout the world. Entering the gorge of the Baines Mountains was almost déjà vu for Willem van Riet. 28 years earlier, he and companion Gordon Rowe had paddled this same journey in heavy glass fiber canoes carrying all their supplies for more than 2 weeks. One can only imagine the level of endurance that was required then. The luxury of rafts did not exist in those days. Retracing his steps from almost 3 decades earlier was a dream come true for Willem. Exiting the Cunene split through the Baines Mountains, Willem's brother Roelof found himself on the oars in the place of the handicapped Stephen. Green Mamba Rapid created no problem for him and Yannick Groenewoud, nor for Lee in the Yak. Picking their way through enormous boulders, the paddleboat crew approached morning glory. This time, the rafts held on in the stoppers. Boiling white water raged on, carrying the flotilla into the breakfast beast. With the hydraulics throwing the rafts in all directions, even expert oarsmen had to hold on and trust their luck. The paddleboat bucked like a wild pony, tossing its riders aside. Down into the hole, and one of the crew goes AWOL. Concern is evident, but the rescue kayak is on the spot. Oarsman James Carroll having to take whatever comes his way. Last but not least, Roelof van Riet takes things calmly as he guides the oarboat through. John Engelman was the swimmer in Breakfast Beast.
Oh, we just get all turned around, throw one big hole and another off this rock. Then it went down just backwards to me and hit the hole. I thought I was on the upside of the raft. And he just threw me over backwards. Forgot to take a breath or something, but I was fighting to get up to the top. When I did pop up, Chris was right there. I was able to hold on the kayak and get my breath.
The Cunene was beginning to leave the mountains and flatten out into the Namib desert. Oceanus was one of the last rapids to run before the flat waters of the Marienfluss. The paddleboat crew still keen to battle it out against the odds. Oceanus Rapid was aptly named when one of the skippers mysteriously left the raft in the middle of the rapid. The vast open spaces of the Marienfluss. The river becomes a picture of tranquility as it enters the desert, where it helps sustain the existence of the indigenous people. But the power of the Kunene must not be forgotten as it steps its way down to the sea. With approximately 60 kilometers to the sea, the river transforms into long stretches of flat water interspersed with fast-flowing grade 1 and 2 rapids. The inherent dangers of the earlier rapids over the previous 9 days were behind the expedition now. The tranquility, however, was deceiving. Beneath the calm waters now lay another kind of danger. The presence of crocodiles meant that suitable precautions had to be taken. Crocodile encounters increased during the latter part of the journey. This is the damage inflicted on a raft by a 5.5-meter croc. After 13 grueling days of kilometer after kilometer paddling flat water, being pounded by numerous grade 6 rapids, thinking perhaps it's your last ever swim having been thrown into the middle of one, undertaking arduous portages, manhandling heavy rafts and equipment across cliff edges, and outsmarting several massive crocs, the expedition finally reached Foz de Cunene, the mouth of the mighty Cunene River, one of Africa's toughest. It is indeed a possibility that the question under discussion around the final campfire is, which classic river should be challenged next?